Let's talk about the war movie. It's one of the oldest and, honestly, one of the most powerful genres in all of cinema. These movies have the power to shape how we think about everything: history, heroism, and even war itself. And that's been true since the very beginning.
I mean, seriously, we've been telling stories about war for as long as we've had movies. Get this, the very first movie to win the Best Picture Oscar, way back in 1927, was a World War I film called Wings. For almost 100 years now, these films have been absolute staples at the box office. The big budget epics that rake in awards.
But that kind of brings up a big question, doesn't it? Are these films just good old-fashioned entertainment, or is there something a little more complicated happening right under our noses?
Okay, so let's start with what we all know, that polished, perfected illusion of war that Hollywood is so good at creating. We're talking about the stories and the scenes that we all instantly recognize.
Come on, you've seen these a million times, right? The soldier writing a heartfelt letter home, the tough, grizzled vet who's seen it all before, the squad that's more like a family. And you can't forget that one dramatic moment, we've all seen it, where someone yells, "Don't you die on me." These are like the essential ingredients, the building blocks that make a war movie feel like a war movie.
What's really fascinating, though, is how the story completely changes depending on which war we're talking about. For World War II, the movies usually paint this very clear picture of good versus evil. It's the good war, right? Perfect for heroes and villains. But then, you switch over to movies about Vietnam, and suddenly everything is morally gray. The whole focus is on confusion, on young soldiers who have no idea why they're even there. It just goes to show you how the same genre can frame conflict in two totally different ways.
So, if these stories are being framed so carefully, it begs the question, who's helping hold the frame? This, my friends, is where the story takes a pretty surprising turn. We're about to uncover a massive, systematic collaboration that has been shaping these movies for a century.
Ever heard of the DoD Hollywood Complex? It's the name for this long-running partnership between the U.S. Department of Defense, the Pentagon, and the entertainment industry. So here's the deal. Filmmakers get access to incredible stuff: real military equipment, actual personnel, and amazing locations that would cost a fortune to replicate. But in exchange, they often have to let the Pentagon review their scripts and sometimes even make changes to make sure the story aligns with the military's goals.
And the scale of this thing is just mind-blowing. We're not talking about a handful of movies. Look at that number. Over 2,500 movies and TV shows have been made with help from the Pentagon. This isn't some rare occurrence. It's practically a cornerstone of how Hollywood works.
And this isn't some new thing either. This relationship has been growing for over 100 years. It all started back in World War I, with the government using movies to get people on board with the war. By World War II, Hollywood was literally being called an essential war industry. Then, fast forward to the 80s, and you get Top Gun, a movie that was a monster success for military recruitment. And after 9/11? Well, this collaboration went into hyperdrive to shape how we all saw the war on terror. You don't even have to read between the lines to figure out the goal. Back in 1942, the head of the Office of War Information, a guy named Elmer Davis, just said it flat out. He said the easiest way to get propaganda into people's minds is through an entertainment movie, when they don't even realize what's happening. That's a strategy that's been working for a very long time.
So if the Pentagon gets a say in the script, what does that do to the movie's realism? Let's try to peel back the layers of that cinematic illusion and see how it stacks up against what combat veterans have actually lived through.
You know the classic Hollywood version of war, right? It's just non-stop action, constant firefights, huge explosions, heroic last stands. It's thrilling, it's dramatic, and it keeps you glued to your seat.
But the reality? Well, if you ask combat veterans, they'll tell you something very different. They'll say 98% of being deployed isn't action. It's boredom. It's just waiting around. It's mundane. All of that is punctuated by these very short, very intense bursts of total chaos.
So, what movies do get it right, according to vets? Well, they often point to the hurry up and wait feeling that's captured so perfectly in Jarhead. They'll talk about the pure exhaustion and the absolute chaos of combat you see in Black Hawk Down. The brutal reality of boot camp and Full Metal Jacket gets mentioned a lot. And hey, even the Vietnam scenes in Forrest Gump get praised for showing that endless cycle of just patrolling until a sudden firefight breaks out where you might not even see who's shooting at you.
Now, the distortion isn't just about what happens on the battlefield. It's also about who we see in these stories. And maybe more importantly, who gets completely left out of the picture.
This number, it pretty much says it all. In an academic study, only 1 out of every 11 war films managed to pass the Bechdel test,
which is a really, really basic measure of whether women are even present in a film. The result is that women are basically erased from the entire genre.
And when women do show up, the portrayals are often pretty bad. They're shown as weak, as people who need to be protected, or they're reduced to stereotypes, like war trophies or victims. This is a massive misrepresentation of the critical, real-life roles that women actually have and continue to have in the military.
Okay, so why does any of this really matter? I mean, they're just movies, right? Well, not exactly. Because this whole militainment machine has very real, very tangible effects on our society, on military recruitment, and even on public policy.
Let me walk you through a perfect case study, Captain Marvel. So, step 1. The U.S. Air Force was all over the production of this film. Step 2, timed perfectly with the movie's release, the Air Force drops this 30-second recruitment ad that feels just like the movie. And step 3, the result? That ad got 11 million views, and get this, female applications to the Air Force Academy shot up by over 31%, the highest jump in 5 years. That's not an accident, folks. That is a strategy that worked perfectly.
And this whole partnership also helps make these gigantic military budgets seem normal. Just for a little perspective, the defense budget request for 2025 is $850 billion. Now compare that to the box office of the highest-grossing war film ever, American Sniper. Hollywood is powerful, for sure, but its financial muscle is just dwarfed by the military it helps to promote.
So let's put all the pieces together. This militainment machine shapes how you and I think about war. It works as an incredibly effective recruiting tool. It helps justify those massive budgets we just talked about. And, maybe most importantly, it sanitizes the brutal reality of war, glossing over the devastating fact that hundreds of thousands of civilians have been killed in U.S. conflicts just since 2001.
So, after going through all of this, it's pretty clear that maybe we need a new way of looking at these movies, a new lens to watch them through.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. The next time you're kicking back, watching one of those epic war movies with all the explosions and heroes, just ask yourself one simple question. Are you watching history, or are you watching a really, really good recruitment ad?